Commission study session. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube. Study session for Tuesday, October 18, 2022. First up is semi-annual report, University of St. Mary. And it looks like Sister Diane Steele's here. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
Yeah, anyone.
Either one, all right. Yeah. Welcome, thank you for having me. Glad to be here. Happy to report that we are, our enrollment held and grew in some of the areas. So on the main campus, we have 876. And if you notice, there's probably not 876 parking spots.
Right.
Altogether, we have 1,267 students. We also have 45 students at the Lansing Correctional Facility. That continues to grow, and we now have 2 degrees out there. We have our business degree and our computer science degree. And any ceremony we hold on our main campus for our students, we also hold out there. So we always have a matriculation ceremony. Usually it's in our chapel, and it's a candlelight ceremony, so we have candles that you screw on. And we went out with all our regalia, and we did it twice, one inside the wall and one for minimum. So it's inspiring to see those men working so hard to turn their lives around and to learn. So that was, we will continue to do that, and hopefully we'll soon have graduation. So that's going well for us. We're building out our cybersecurity program. We've brought in 19 freshmen for that. We're partnering with Tenfold Security, which is a security company in Kansas City. It happens to be one of our alums work there. For not having a cybersecurity program, we have 5 or 6 alums in top security positions. One of them is a principal of IBM, another one's at Tenfold, another one's at Palo Alto. And so as we build that out, Tenfold is also helping us, now I remember I'm a theologian, build, I call it a playground in the cloud for them to go in and destroy and play that doesn't hurt anything else. It's a contained system unto itself with Amazon Web Services. Because if you're going to learn to prevent hacking, you have to know how hackers think. So it's where they get to practice and play. And so we're redoing our rooms to better accommodate that, better accommodate their needs. They'll be on the ground floor of MeAge. We expect that program to continue to grow.
That's great.
Yeah.
There's a huge need for it. There are so many more jobs, and the jobs are happening faster than we can produce students. So we're going to do our best to help out there and serve our community. We've been listening to our nurses, our family nurse practitioners, many of them who are already practicing nurses. So they've asked if they could take their didactic part online. So the family nurse practitioner will go online, and then they will come to campus to test their competencies, or what I would call the lab test. Can you actually do all the things you say you know? And those happen over at St. John's, where our STEM lab is. So we expect that to increase the number of family nurse practitioners as well. We're in conversation with KCK and St. John's Hospital as well, saying how can we help deal with the nursing shortage that is in our own community as well as Kansas City and national. So we're looking to see how we can build a pipeline from our high schools all the way down through KCK up to St. Mary. So we're working on that together as a community. So I like to see us working together, using our resources together. So hopefully we can, it's helping students. COVID did not do good things for the image of the nurse. There were way too many sad nurses on TV. And that affects what students think. So we're trying to rebuild that image in a more positive way of being of service to your community. So we're hoping that'll help feed those pipelines so we can continue to build that out.
Is St. John's doing any reimbursement for tuition?
They aren't now. What they're doing right now, and we're working on that one, because our challenge is the students need the money up front, and what they have until you're employed there is the sign-on bonuses.
Right, sign on, yeah.
Once you're there, they will help you continue your education. So if we can do the pipeline from CNA to LPN to RN to BSN, that will help them, because they'll have some money there. But they need that money up front.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. Accelerated nursing, which is the BSN program that you finish in 1 year. It's very intense. It's now open to transfers. Again, there's a criteria that you have to meet to get in because it's very intense and you're carrying 18 to 21 hours. So unless you're serious, that's not the one you want to be in. But we will be taking transfers in that. We have launched, one of our things we have learned as we look at our data is that first-generation students and students who receive the Pell Grant retain at a lower rate than the rest of our students. And if you are both a first-generation and Pell Grant, they're retaining at about 52%, where the other students retain at 77%. So we have created we tried it last year and we just offered it to the students. Well, we didn't get much response, so this year we put it on their financial aid packages. We presented it to their parents, and it's an extra $3,000, $1,500 each semester, if they go to all the sessions. I think they can miss 2. And again, we're teaching them things that you wouldn't know if you're first generation. That we have a college catalog. You know, how many degrees do you need to graduate? What are your general education requirements? Where's your 4-year plan? How do you deal with the FAFSA? How do you deal with your loans? And what they all need to learn is time management. And so as they come to these and we teach them learning skills and how to learn, and in a sense, how higher ed operates. So we're very eager to see how that pans out for us, to see if we can't move that retention rate up for everyone. We're trying to meet the mental health needs, which are, as you can tell, a crisis in our society today. So we have launched our Masters in Social Work online. They will have campus checked off as well. And then we always have our clinical graduate psychology program, which is full. Again, trying to say how can we better meet the needs, and then we also have the school counseling program to help create more school counselors. Our doctorate in physical therapy remains full. We're growing out our doctorate in occupational therapy, and our doctorate in education is growing. So they're all moving right along. And our Spires trading team, which I think I told you about before, I wish they had, if I had a portfolio, I wish they'd have it, because they had a very successful year. So they had 5 students, and the earnings from their trading paid for the tuition, room, and board of those 5 students, and they made another $200,000 on top of that. So this time they now have 7 students,
Wow.
and from their earnings. So a erratic market works well for them, because they're trading puts. Now, actually, they don't trade. They suggest the trades to the director, because they look, but they don't execute.
Right.
So it's a great experience. 2 of our seniors who were in that last year graduated, and both are employed. One is at Krenitzer Capital, and the other is at State Street. The young man who was at State Street, when he presented to our Board of Trustees, said, when I started, I didn't know what the market was. So steep learning curve, very successful. So we're also very happy we have a NOIS grant, which is the federal grant from on education, and we're trying to produce more. It's a $1.1 million federal grant, produce more STEM teachers in both elementary and secondary. And as we're partnering with our local schools, Leavenworth, Lansing, and Tonganoxie, trying to create a pipeline. And so the first 2 years, those students get a lot of tutoring, a lot of help, learning about education. And then the last 2 years, their junior and senior year, they get a scholarship for $23,000. So it's a $46,000 scholarship, and then they have to go work in a high-need district. Or a district is high need if any school in that district is high need. So Leavenworth is high need. So it's this way to grow our own.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about that program as well. And overall, we're doing wonderfully. Our cross-country team is set to win the conference again, and I already have my ticket to nationals, so I'm confident they'll do well.
That's cool.
That's confidence.
Yeah.
Yes, I said, unless they trip and fall, they should be okay.
That's great.
And the rest of our sports are coming right along. I can now say that football is competitive, at least for 3-3. We're no longer just a team of character.
Nice way to put it.
Yes, well, they better be that first and foremost.
Right.
Character, right.
So there's a short recap of what we have going, and I'd be glad to entertain your questions.
This is cybersecurity issue is just huge. I have a friend who works in cybersecurity for the state now, and he just moved right up, and he talks about the need for more people to work with him.
Yeah. And the students seem to be interested in that, so I think we're gonna make a go of that. I think that's gonna grow. It's terrible that you have to teach them to be crooked so they can stop the crooked people from breaking in, but that's the way it works.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't your swim team just compete
Yes,
recently? Didn't I see something in today's paper?
yes,
They
they're
did-
also very good.
They did very well, didn't they?
They did very well. They won, both men and women won. Yeah, it was a good weekend because both men and women won, the soccer teams won, and the football teams won.
Wow,
Wow.
that's great.
So they all did quite well. But again, our first concern is academics and character. And
That's good.
we think if you do those two, your winning will come.
Right.
I'm an old school marm, and we have to keep our priorities straight.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
But we'd invite you to come out to the suite whenever you can. We'd also like to invite you to our, you're gonna get a formal invitation, but just a heads up to our honoring of our vets. It's on November 12th. We don't do it this year I think it has to be on Monday, which is
The
the
14th.
14th.
Yeah, I received that.
Founder's Day for us, the Sisters of Charity, is also November 11th, and we take our students to the parade. So we honor the vets, so I'd invite you all to come out when we get to pin our vets and enjoy lunch with us, so.
Oh,
And
yeah,
you
I've
will
been
be
to
getting
that
your
before. It's
formal
really nice.
invitation, so just to get it on your
Last year.
calendars.
Yeah. Yeah,
Been
it's
to that
nice, yeah.
before.
I'm taking my dad this year.
Great.
Yeah.
Hey, did anyone else have any?
Well, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Are you experiencing any challenges right now?
We did have a cyber incident,
Okay.
and we learned a great deal. And so they don't like this when I say this in the IT department, but I considered it a blessing in disguise because we had done quite a bit. And now we are so much stronger. And we didn't lose any data. We lost some stored files. We didn't lose any student data. We learned a great deal, and we are so much stronger because of it. Not that I'd wish it on anybody. It was a difficult couple of weeks, but we learned a great deal. And all I can say is, wow, spend the money and do it right.
Right, right.
That's good. Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No, anything else?
Anything else I can help you with? Great, well, thank you very
Okay,
much
thank
for
you,
having
Sister
me.
Diane.
Thank you,
Thank
Sister.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, semi-annual report, Leavenworth County Development Corporation, Mrs. Lisa Hack.
You could have had just Paul do this because he's heard it so many times recently.
Oh, yeah.
And some of you heard
Yeah,
Anita.
Economic, yeah.
Yes, the community outlook.
Yeah.
In Wichita State. Well, thank you all, Mayor, Commissioners, Paul, Sarah, thank you for having me today. I've got this. And then the other thing I was gonna put up, do you all have in your packet the prospects and leads, I think? Okay, so,
Yes.
that'll be on slide 2, I'll talk about that, as well as the slide. But I just wanted to, of course, I'm Lisa Hack, I've been the new executive director since May of this year. So it's been an exciting time, and let me get used to this clicker. Leavenworth County Development Corporation, we facilitate jobs and capital investment for Leavenworth County. I wanted to start with, we do that through business recruitment, and we do it through business retention and expansion with existing businesses. In your packets, you have the projects and leads, which this is the report that I give, whether it's the LCDC Board of Directors meeting or the Port Authority, meetings like this and meetings like the Community Outlook update that Wichita State came and did. This kind of just gives you an overview of what the project activity is. And this is part of our business recruitment. This is one of the ways that we recruit potential businesses is by responding to RFIs, requests for information. And these are generated, I'll talk about where they come from in just a minute. But in October, as you can see, we've had one project, Project Multiple. This was a request by the Department of Commerce for, on behalf of a realtor in Kansas City for 4 different projects, and we didn't have any sites that fit any of those, so I did not submit that. So actually, If you see where I have new projects and it says one active, it actually should say 0, because I didn't submit for that. Below the ongoing projects, we have about 16, and I just want to go over just a few of them, especially the ones that, you all that are here in Leavenworth. Project Heat. This is a client that requested information initially about the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park, as well as the Gary Carlson Business Park. And they only needed 5 acres, so we are now focusing on one of the lots in the Gary Carlson Business Park. This will be a utility, and we're working with the Port Authority to talk about. They have chosen to offer 25% discount for the land there because of the jobs and the building that they'll build. And we don't know, we've submitted all the information, and we're just waiting to hear back from them. Project Stairs is an existing company here in Leavenworth. They're interested in purchasing actually 2 buildings for an expansion, so we're working with the city and the state for this because it'll require crossing over bringing some business from across a different state line. Project Arch, if you go down here, Project Arch, you may remember we submitted the entire business park for that. It has gone on hold. We did ask recently, and Chris Gutierrez, the lead at KCADC, let us know that it does remain on hold. There's a lot going on in this sector for this particular project that can affect it, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. So we're just going to have to hold tight. Then the next one I thought I'd mention is the Kansas Veterans Home. We were hoping to know something by the 1st of September, but we recently learned that they just actually secured funding. So they're just now starting to look at all the different sites that have been submitted for this particular project. So then, if you look at the slide here, this talks about where these these projects come from, these RFIs. And if you can see there, in 2022 up to today, we've had 47 RFIs come in, or leads, and 21 of them have become projects. So that means we've submitted for it, we're waiting to hear back, we've worked on it. We've had 2 site visits this year, and we've had 3 locations. And those 3 locations include Stripes Global, who located on Potawatomi in the old June's Northland. So that's one. DL Granite and Design, they purchased a lot in the Urban Hess Business Center, and they're almost finished building a 6,000 square foot building there. And then IST, Industrial Service Technologies, they bought a 3rd lot in the Urban Hess Business Center, and they'll be building another building there. I guess I should say leads and if you go over to the yellow section, you can see where it says commerce and it says 20. 20 of the total 47 have come from the Department of Commerce. The number in parentheses is last year, so you can compare. KCADC, we've had 7 from them this year. LCDC, 19. And what that means is that it's come straight from the developer or the realtor that's working with that company. And then we have one that came from either the City Chamber or Main Street. We keep track of the existing building requests. We have 3 periods of time that we've identified. You've got 2018 and 19, which is represented in the blue. We had a total of 27 requests. And then the orange represents 2020 and 21. We had a total of 34. And then today, 2022 to date, that's only about halfway through, in the green, we've already had 28. And so, obviously, it just keeps increasing the requests for existing buildings. And then as you can see, we've received the most requests for the buildings between 50,000 and 99,000 square foot. So we're hoping that this information will be helpful as we talk about should we build a building that we would want to, a spec building that we would hope to sell. Well, obviously, we can see what would probably be most likely to sell. And then this picture, I definitely am going to continue to talk about how important it is that we start those, which we have begun those discussions about if or where we want to maybe develop a new business park in the county. The Port Authority just today, continued interest. We want to talk about how that process is going to happen, if there is going to be criteria developed to determine where the best place is. So we'll hear more of that as time goes on. Because obviously it can take a decade to develop a business park. So it's not gonna take that much and we're gonna be out of land. We've got the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park, it has 80 acres, but we do have several projects that we've submitted for, and it's gonna take the right one and then that will be gone. Gary Carlson Business Park has 3 lots. They're only 5, 7, and 9 acres. The Tonganoxie Business Park has 3 lots, a 2, 10, and 12 acre lot. And then the Urban Hess has 4 lots, ranging between 1.5 and 4 acres. So those are all just small, and the largest one is the Leavenworth Business and Technology Park. So we want to make sure that we continue this momentum that we've created in Leavenworth County. We hired, in 2020, we hired Marks Nelson to do a labor shed study. And then a lot of times we use that information when we respond to RFIs. They want to know what kind of labor we have, if we have potentially enough labor to handle what they need. And then they also want updated information. So we thought it was time to go ahead and talk about an update. We talked to Marks Nelson. They did an update for us between September 1st and 30th, so it's finished. It is up on our website. I can also provide a link to it if you're interested. This is great information, as I said, for us when we respond to RFIs, but some people use it when they're writing for grants, things like that. There's all kinds of reasons that this information is really important. Our labor shed here in Leavenworth County is 2.2 million people. That covers 10 counties, and yes, it's across both state lines. We talked about that.
Yep.
That also reaches into 3 MSAs, Kansas City, Lawrence, and Topeka. So that's a unique quality that we have about Leavenworth County. And then it's expected to grow another 2.2% over the next 4 years. We are a net exporter of jobs, so 67.9% of our residential workforce leaves this county for work every day for employment. That's an opportunity for projects. We do know also from this study that a bulk of that 67.9% are going to Johnson County. So we can gain from that it's probably higher wages or professional jobs that we just don't have enough of here. There's an education piece in there that's pretty interesting that we didn't have in the 2020 labor shed study. It shows in 2020 what the enrollment for how many enrollments occurred for the schools. And then it talks about how many completed programs in that year. And then it also talks about the types of programs, and then the sectors that the programs were for. So there's some great information. For August, that's the most recent number we have for unemployment from the Department of Commerce. They send me this map every month. And we are at 3.2%, which is, of course, back to pre-pandemic numbers. We've averaged about 3% unemployment for the year of 2022 so far. So I talked about business retention. We also do business development through business retention and expansion. Some of those projects that I talked about on the projects and leads, those were existing companies. Over 50% of a community's capital investment comes from existing businesses who expand. So it's really important that we pay attention to those existing businesses and that we make sure that their needs are met or that resources are provided to them. That is something that we've really done well. We need to hire our new assistant director soon so that we can get that, focus on that again. We do have, well, I will just say, I guess I just wanted to say that we've got we had, in the first search, unfortunately, we were not successful. We couldn't meet the needs as far as salary for the person that we offered the job to. So we opened up the search again, and we have another one. So hopefully we'll have, crossing fingers, hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have somebody there. If you know of anybody, please let them know to send me their resume. I would like to, obviously, we've got here who our officers are. We've got Josh Hoppus, who is the president, Harlan Russell, the past president, Jeremy Greenemeyer's the vice president, Brian Habian, treasurer, Lauren Cause at large, and then I and Mary Mack are the staff at LCDC. We have a VIP event coming up. We'd love for you all to attend if you can. This is November 4th on a Friday. It's from 5 to 7 at Falcon Lakes Clubhouse. We'd love to have you.
Is it a lip sync battle again?
It is not a lip sync, so now we'll come and have a drink.
I
Do you all
have
have any questions?
Got some for you, Lisa. Thank you for this. I appreciate the update. Can you walk me through, I think that's really interesting, the 50% local business piece that you talked about from the, leads and prospects and everything like that that's coming in. Can you walk me through when, looking at your leads and prospects from the time you engage with a prospect, can you walk me kind of through that process and how you try to dial that in for them? I'm just kind of curious.
So as I talked about the sources, we may receive an RFI that will say, maybe from the KCADC, the Regional Kansas City Area Development, Economic Development Organization. They would say, we're looking for 50 acres for this amount of capital investment for 50 jobs. And we'll look around throughout the entire county and we'll determine, do we have that? If we do, then we'll submit. Those RFIs can be as simple as maybe, would you just please send me a brochure on the property? Or it could be over 150 pages of questions that could be about information about labor that we will get from the labor shed study, or we might ask for some of our resources. It could be a lot of times utility capacity. Can your site handle this much gas capacity? Can it handle this much electricity? And then at that point, I need to go to those utility people and ask them, and sometimes it takes a few days for them to gather the information depending on what's required, and then they'll bring that back to me. We assemble all this information together according to how they request for it to be submitted, and we'll submit it to that lead.
Sure.
A lot of times those projects, they take a lot of time sometimes, but usually you get like a week or two to submit all that information. And then, as you can see, we may hear back in a few weeks, or we may not hear for several months, and then they'll want new information. You just kind of at their mercy.
Sure. And they want it yesterday. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I was kind of curious when it comes to leads that are coming in. Do you envision being able to be in a spot, maybe when you bring on this new hire, to get into more of that kind of proactive position to get more connected with some of these folks, even at the state level, to, maybe farm more opportunities into the county? I mean, I didn't know what you see.
Right, and I probably should have explained some of the ways other than just the RFIs, because besides that, we do have lots of relationships with the Department of Commerce. We work really well with that whole team, with the national and the international and the statewide team. We have very good relationships. We go to events with them. I just went to the Kansas Economic Development Association, which is a state professional organization, for their conference. We also do a lot of events with KCADC, and a lot of members, investors into KCADC are realtors in Kansas City, and that's kind of our market to gain that interest. So we do a lot of, we have a section of women in development, and I'll go to those socials. I just went to one last month. SIOR is another way. It's the Society for Industrial and Office Realtors. They had a development day in Kansas City, and this was last month. And you go to the Union Station, and they have, I mean, there must have been 50, 60 booths, and they're all different companies, engineers and realtors and industrial and office realtors.
Sure.
And you get to go around and meet these people, and you get to do your elevator speech for your community. Those are chances to trade business cards.
Sure.
Sometimes we'll go, I didn't say the Department of Commerce has a team where they, through the nation, you have somebody that represents Kansas in, Texas, the East Coast, West Coast, here in the Midwest, and up in Chicago. And they put together these events, maybe a dinner, and they invite about 4 or 5 different Kansas communities, and they have about 12 site selectors, people that are hired by companies to look for places to locate. And that's another opportunity for us to not only represent Kansas, but I get to go, hey, in Leavenworth, we have this, this, and this. And then I get their cards, and I
Cool. So
build
no,
those.
that's good.
I'm sorry, I should have included that.
No, that's good. It's good information. So,
Yeah.
Just to
yeah.
know the process, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
remember that
Yeah.
for next time, too.
It's all good. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Any
questions?
other questions?
Hope you get your assistant real soon. I know you need a person.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank
You
you.
do a
With
lot.
everything going on, yeah.
That would be, it'll be very helpful.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation, that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, next up, before we do the sign recognition policy, normally we do not have public comment at a study session, but I'm allowing, First Sergeant is here, and I said he could have a couple minutes, so if you just come up here,
Right up that?
yeah, that's fine, and just your name and address, please.
What?
He's energized.
What? I'm First Sergeant Cogdell. I live in Leavenworth. Well, Lansing now, but I just moved out of Leavenworth, just across the couple streets.
Okay.
I'm a teacher at Leavenworth High School. What's that, sir?
I said you left us?
No, well, there's a story, sir.
I got you.
Well, sir, I'm a teacher at Leavenworth High School. I've been there for 14 years. I'm a JRGC instructor there. And we're doing great things, not just in that school, but within our ROTC program, being the oldest in the nation. And the last 3 years, we've brought 3 national titles back to Leavenworth, Kansas. And driving by Ray Miller Park all the time, I'm like, what an opportunity to recognize our kids that's won the national level, you know, just to showcase those national titles in that park. And we brought it. So I got a hold of Miss Pittman and Mr. Wilson, and she's leaving us right now. And Mr. Wilson, I said, hey, sir, we got to get a sign up for these kids. And it's hard enough to win 1 national title. Now we're about to go win a 3rd one here in a week and a half in Molina, Georgia. So we're going to defend the title that we won last year. So we're trying to bring that title back to Leavenworth. Because it means so much, not to just myself being the coach, Miss Wertz the coach, and we got Dalen Williams that's with us this year, is currently in West Point. So he's helping us, he's alumni of the JRTC program and the Raider team. So I just think it'd be a bright thing to be for these kids in our program, and more importantly, Leavenworth High School, to be recognized in that park, ma'am.
Okay.
You have any questions of me?
You've earned it.
It's
Yeah.
winning's contagious, sir.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so is losing, and we're not playing that.
No,
I just want these kids to be winners in life.
I think that's
Right.
great.
No.
That's great.
So we start now. Start them early.
Yes.
I love your passion.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank
Because you do have the impact on the children outside
Yes.
the schools. You can tell the way they conduct themselves
You bet.
in the public. So thank you for everything, for
You bet.
teaching them life skills.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so appreciate that.
You bet, sir.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hey, Tom, would you
Yes, sir.
leave me a set of those slides that you showed
sir.
me earlier?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna email
All right,
them.
you got enough?
And she's-
I'm gonna email it to her and
Good, good,
you bet.
thanks.
And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Can you do
bet.
it one
Fired
more
up.
time?
What's that, sir?
Fired up.
Oh, we're fired up.
I
The kids are fired up.
He is fired up.
Well,
I do too. He is. I think he's always
and
like
thank you, have
that.
a good evening.
Okay, thank you, you
Thank you.
too.
He's an energizer bunny. He never stops, he never stops.
Okay, so next up is sign recognition policy.
I'm not sure how we follow that, so.
Oh, well,
We have to.
I know, we gotta get fired up.
No.
There you go.
Okay. So, Mayor, Commission, you'll recall, we talked about those signs along 4th Street back in June. And the thought at that point in time was, is this, just considering looking at this, is this kind of the way we want to continue to go forward, is to add on to these signs? So, I have a couple slides as a reminder. So this really kind of came down to the question of what is Leavenworth known for? That was sort of, I think, how the signs had gotten there in the first place, wanted to have that celebration of hard work and achievement for those that had been recognized, wanted to share that with visitors and others as a way to talk about our great city of Leavenworth. And the direction to staff at that time was to update the policy and to present the consolidation concepts. And really, as First Sergeant did so well, talk about Ray Miller Park, which the thought is if we would move the signs inside the park, it would be more than just a drive-by. It would be something people can actually stop in the park and either use a QR code to get more information or read more information depending on what the vision is. So really to find almost an improved way to honor those that are being recognized. So Julie Hurley and I met with Young Sign Company about what the signs placed in the park could look like, and we have several concepts for your consideration.
Yep, so we'll just kind of go through these, and this is what Young Sign Company presented to us after we had told them, hey, here's what we're looking at doing, just sort of a better way of recognizing Leavenworth residents and groups who, had some notable achievements. So this first concept is just a pillar row, and then you've got the folks or the groups, 3 or however many we would get on each pillar. And it's a little bit hard to see, but the red area on each of those plaques would be room to put some information about each person. And again, like Penny said, the thought with moving these inside the park, that gives folks a chance to stop and look at these. When you're driving down 4th Street, you're going 40, 45 miles an hour, you don't have a chance to see more than just the name. You don't know what it says. So
Right.
this gives people a chance to get that information. It also has a chance to incorporate, like Penny said, a QR code so that if people want to get more, they can scan that. And our thought is that we could create a space on the city's website dedicated to the people that are recognized on these signs where that QR code would take them. So then we could control that information that's there and make sure it's updated and relevant and current. So this again is just sort of that first concept that Young presented to us. Here's another one, pretty similar with the pillar. This one is just putting more names on each pillar. And you can see that red area is a little bit smaller, so not as much room to put more detailed information on the sign itself. But again, have the space for that QR code so that people could choose to visit the site if they wanted. So, pretty much in line with the first one that we took a look at. And then this one, a little bit out of the box, this is an individual sign for each person or group that is being recognized. And Young Sign Company, their staff, in explaining this to me, to us, it's sort of a steel cutout, whatever represents that person or group, whether it's their silhouette or a music note, something that represents them. And so each individual would have their own, and then there'd be sort of this walk through the park. It says scale to be determined.
Oh.
So, yes. Yeah, so that's sort of what I was picturing. These, they're not 10 feet tall, but sort of life size is what I was picturing as we were over there, talking to Ann and her staff, so. And then here's another one, sort of incorporating both of those concepts with the pillar that has multiple names, or groups on it, and then picking just, one, symbol or silhouette to sort of represent, Leavenworth. And they, put Melissa Etheridge up here just, as an example to kind of show what it would look like, but that then is the final concept. So we're really here bringing these to you, to see what direction you guys are kind of wanting to go with this. And any feedback you might have, what you like, what you don't like.
Okay,
Feedback?
feedback, I'll go first.
Yes.
I'll listen to you guys first.
Um,
'cause I
It doesn't really look like any of our other signs, design-wise. I mean, it's very stark, very, I don't know what you call it.
It's a more modern look, and Penny and I had that thought as
was
well
our
when we
reaction.
first, yeah, that was our initial reaction when we said it's more modern, it's not the same aesthetic as,
As any of the other signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only concern. As far as the numbers of people on there and stuff, I like the idea of having, their names and that, but I don't know if you'd be able to see
Yeah, I do,
the details. The QR code is a good idea, because
yeah.
then you could do like you would do with one of the walking tours.
sure.
But, and I mean, you could possibly do categories like, musician, athletics,
like this.
music, athletics, whatever, and have something like that. But,
And that had been the thought, if you recall, we suggested trying to categorize some of them. The issue we ran into was the concepts we had, really only one might allow, this
Might allow
one
that, yeah.
might allow for some categorization. Otherwise, this is sort of most of them together, this is each is a separate, so in some ways it's whatever you'd like us to do, adjust the policy or select the sign that fits what you're looking for.
I like this one right here, just because, I mean, like, the silhouettes are really cool. I think from a cost standpoint, obviously not having, I think the next one you've got up there, slide 2, is maybe a little bit too, I don't know, that's just kind of a lot. I think spacing them out, you can continue to go down the path. And I of course don't know what the cost is just yet, and I don't know what our budget is all on.
Yeah.
And we don't
haven't
either.
established
Yeah,
that.
so
Okay.
this is just sort of the preliminary concepts, and then once we have more of a direction, then we'll get back with Young Sign Company and they can work up some cost estimates for us and revise what we're looking at.
And I'm okay with a little bit more modern, because with what we got ready to be happening on 4th with some of the development and more that's happening around town, having a little bit mix of modern and old, that's not the word we're deciding, but you know what I'm talking about. Historical, yeah, thank you. That's
classy.
art person, that's right. So, I definitely, I think we could expand on it. It's not too much, it's not maybe too little, and it's kind of cool and monumental. These look like number ones,
well, and you could do that, I like that idea too, in the way of you're walking through. But you could do that and have different categories and have the.
I don't know
Have
if you would
something
really need on
represented.
that writing, if you had the QR code.
No,
I'm sure that could be modified some.
And that was one of my thoughts too, and in talking with, I can't remember if it was John or who, the designer over at Young.
Yeah.
And one thing he pointed out is that not everybody wants to have their phone out to scan a QR code
Yeah.
when they're walking. And sometimes you just want to see that kind of bit of information, whether it's a full paragraph or just a couple of lines.
Just a couple of
But just
lines.
to sort of get your attention, okay, do I want to find out more about this person? Okay, then I can scan the QR code, but just to have a little bit there is nice for folks that don't want to have out their phone while they're, enjoying something that they're doing outside.
I personally would like the individual freestanding tribute installations. It seems more personalized, and I believe, definitely honors that person individually for their achievements personally. And I can just tell based upon everybody's face, it's gonna be pretty costly. I think it's definitely worth the investment.
Yeah, that'd be the thing, be the cost of it.
Yeah.
And that's what we gotta look at too, the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like the Mercedes-Benz,
That's, yeah.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think it's really honoring the individuals.
but it is special, yeah, because then if you even had a group or something, so they had their own.
Well, and we're looking to have more hometown folks honored down through the years, so, yeah, like you said, Nancy,
So
I don't know what that cost would look like yet. but-
Different answers, but if you could bring some numbers back.
That's it. I think it's.
We did request those, we just haven't gotten them.
Yeah.
There's
okay.
still room for this one, the individual standalones.
Not having the scale yet, I mean, if this was something that was, you know, let's say we put it up on a brick wall that is this high, and then it's only this big, each one of them, still has the individual, but it's not a 6-foot cutout hunk of steel,
Right.
you know, so that might help.
A 5'2".
No. You want eyes of blue? No, what's
I
going
think they did say around 5 foot, they were thinking because Wayne might be a little bit perturbed that his cutout would be shorter than his actual height.
Well, if he's looking for proportionality, you know. But yeah, I think if it was something that could be maybe, you know, 3 feet or less and put up on some kind of a pedestal,
Cement block.
you know.
Have
yeah,
a
even
wall,
that.
yeah, have a
Yeah.
wall with them along.
Yeah, have a wall, and they're put on the wall, that kind of, and the wall would have to go on a little bit, so you
Sure.
got room for more. But I think making them smaller might be a little less expensive. You're coming down from the Mercedes to maybe the Cadillac.
I do kind of like the cutouts though, no matter
Yeah.
what we do here, if you have some sort of cutout there, that
At
would
least
make it
when you
more,
look at it,
more
you're like,
interesting.
oh, okay, he was a basketball player, or she was, you know.
So you say you're in favor of the individuals as well?
Yeah, I like the individual ones.
Okay.
But, yeah, like you said, you know, just look at what it cost.
Yeah,
Whoa.
cost, no, silhouettes are cool. but-
Sure.
In some ways, the cost is also a question for the commission on how often do you see adding on additional honorees? I mean, I know it's hard to know because you'd have to review that on a one-by-one basis, but, you know, if you think we're gonna add another 10 in the next 5 years, that might be something we consider for a lower cost,
Sure.
whereas if we think this is something that is gonna, you know, keep the current high standard of more national, international, you know, sort of renown that's lasting for the community, you know, then it might be worth considering something that costs a little more. Maybe
When was the
Your
last time we had
policy
one?
takes care of that though, I mean, you know, the policy has enough
Murray Dixon
information
or
in it
Paul
that
Levitt, they
would.
came about the same time.
Be careful how you
Everybody,
answer
everybody
that.
and their
Yeah.
brother may
Those are the
not.
last
I
two.
said, be careful how you answer that, if you think there's gonna be a lot of awesome folks coming from Leavenworth or not.
I think the process is what really slows it down because so many people request it, but they never follow through with the process. And so I think when was the last one?
So
Yeah.
was the last one either Paul Levitt or Murray Dixon? I think were the I think were those.
I remember Murray
We've
Dixon
probably
was
done
there.
4 or 5 since I've been here.
Yeah.
But there's 5 or 6 that have had, you're right, because you have to have a sponsor
Yeah.
and you have to fill out the stuff, you have to come to the city commission, you kinda have to follow through and sometimes we don't always get that.
Yeah.
We need to start with cost, probably.
Yeah,
Get some numbers.
definitely
Yeah.
cost.
And another question I
We
had
could
is,
do
we're
one for
going,
the pioneers and have a pioneer here and then have the different teams, you know. Put down on
First
one
Sergeant
thing.
Wayne.
Yeah, no,
They cut out.
Yeah,
We've got some famous pioneers, we've got some famous pioneers that.
another
I mean,
thing
James
that,
Baldwin.
you know, as we were going through it, I was wanting to know, who's going to maintain the website that the QR code's going to lead to?
Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I would assume transient guest tax, CVB dollars, would be an appropriate use. You know, if you were bus tours, stop with some of the investment the states have. But we can talk more about funding sources when we get some budget numbers. But there's, you could also look at donations or fundraising for these sponsorships and stuff like that. If there's a true memorial park effect to this.
This also really goes hand in glove with the policy, which was included in your packet. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at that.
Yes.
When you're putting that together, Julie and I really wanted to make sure it reflected your desire for what this looks like, for the level of honorees that will be there. So just, wanted to also get some feedback and see if there's anything that stuck out to you.
I think you guys are on the right track. This is like,
I think this is
great.
good. And you've included in there other applicable service or distinction that may be approved.
No, it's
So
the
that's
goal, to not
getting a
box it
little
in too
flexible.
much, that you have to be this, or this, but to have that flexibility for whatever commission
Yep.
is sitting at the time to be able to recognize folks that may be deserving who come forward for things that we, probably haven't even thought of.
Now, do we want to have them all right out there on 4th Street by the VA?
Ray Miller Park.
Okay, yeah, Ray Miller Park. Or are we going to continue to put a version of it down here at the end of 4th Street at Metropolitan, like we have a few of them there now?
But we haven't added any new ones there, so
they should all be in one
we've all
Yeah.
got them all. at
Yeah, I
Ray
think
Miller.
that the goal was to consolidate them, so they're all in
Yeah.
one central location.
Yeah.
That's nice, that's pretty potent.
Yeah, it's a nice space.
Yeah, it's a nice space.
So what are we looking at timeline?
So like Penny said, we've already put the request in to Young Sign Company to get some budget numbers, so we can take some of this feedback to them, some of the ideas of maybe like a smaller scale version of the cutouts on some sort of wall or something like that. Get them some of that more specific feedback and bringing back some budget numbers
Sounds good.
as soon as we can.
Yeah, as soon as you can, that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, there could be some concrete work, I don't know if we want to have a lighting element, to them at
Yeah, that's what I
all.
was wondering.
That gets,
Yeah.
if there's power on that side of the street, otherwise you gotta bore. We had to, for the Stubby Park sign, we had to bore under 4th Street, so
We may not
There's some
wanna do
cost.
that there.
but we can look at, now that we have, I think, a consensus on some of the style, we'll start
Yeah.
getting into layout.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of that in-house, I think.
Oh, it looks classy, yeah.
Yeah. And so we're gonna have one big sign that says Hometown Heroes with the arrow pointed toward Ray Miller Park.
That was the initial thought.
Some
to
directional
take guides so
signage.
people into the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they figure out if that matches the colors and the branding of the signs
Yeah.
as that develops, or whether that's sort of more of a standard directional sign.
Yeah, but some sort of directional, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, you got my wheels spinning, depending on where that funding comes from, maybe if it is transient guest tax, maybe there's something for our police department and fire department and first responders, some element, if we're gonna add that in there too, it'd be kinda cool.
That would be
So,
nice to honor them.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You have the direction we need?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
That's great. Okay, next up.
Business Improvement and Expansion Grant Program, ARPA Pilot Program.
Mayor and Commission, I only have 6 slides on this one, so hopefully this is a little more discussion.
It's,
Yeah. So, if I were to construct a building today in the city of Leavenworth, it would include 2018 International Building Codes. That would be the standard. It would have fire suppression, it would have ADA accessibility. If I owned a building in Leavenworth that was constructed 25 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 100 years ago, likely most of those buildings weren't constructed with those needs in mind. So that's really what brings us here today, is looking at what that means for our current stock of existing business buildings. So really, what we have found as staff, working with the business community, is that called sort of an event triggers sort of a review of this. Whether that's they want to increase the occupancy of a space, they might currently have some sort of limited retail and they want to make it into a restaurant with more people or an event space. They want to just do improvements, they want to section out the building. All of these things can kind of be the trigger for when some of these regulations apply, and that's when we as staff kind of are brought into this. So the simple thing to say is we currently have a small business economic development grant. So this is the grant, usually up to $5,000 for a single business. It can be up to $15,000 for multiple businesses. This is when someone wants to do any kind of remodeling in general, windows, doors, flooring, plumbing, electrical, anything that's fixed that will stay with the building. I always say it's meant to support your business, and then when you expand, to support the business that moves into that space. That's really what this is for, is to continue to improve on our downtown building stock. What we heard from Leavenworth Main Street and other businesses that we work with as staff is that there were two areas where the grant really wasn't meeting the current needs. And those were fire suppression and ADA interior improvements. So what we heard is that the cost of that can be high. So I'll give you an example. One downtown business on Delaware has two businesses inside of it. Within the last year, installed sprinkler systems. The cost of that was $50,000. Wow. So you can see how they did receive the $15,000 grant, but that's still a substantial investment for them to have to make. I mean, like every business, they have to do that calculation of, in the long run, will that short-term investment make sense? And we've heard from some is they just can't make it work with the math. So based on the feedback that we've heard from Main Street and from other downtown and other businesses, we thought, this is something that the commission could consider as a possible use of ARPA funds. So here's why this might make sense to consider for ARPA funds. ARPA funds are really ideal for one-time expenses, one-time investments. So in some ways, this is a chance to do a pilot program to see what the demand is for this. Would this inspire those who've been needing this to expand or buy a business but have held off just to do the expense? Will this be that needed extra amount that they say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that project, and this will be the funding I needed to do that? This also allows us to assess the demand, and if we find that the demand is great with the pilot program, then that's a consideration for the commission. Is that something we look to possibly expand or change what we do for the current small business grant? Again, that could be, if this is a well in-demand program and there's a wait list and we find that this really sparks business improvement, that could be something where additional funding might be added to, say, a budget line for a program. So that's a long ways from now. This would be to give us the information we need. That's less anecdotal as we hear this from businesses. We have some metrics to put to that. So I don't have the copywriting to this photo, but for me this showed really one thing. The fire chief has been talking to me about community risk reduction, which is sort of the latest focus in fire prevention, and that's really where things like fire suppression, so sprinkler systems, come into play. There's other community benefits as well for some of these investments. It would encourage the revitalization of existing buildings, increase the quality of available business space. This means we have spaces when businesses are looking to locate in Leavenworth that are ready to go, improve safety, obviously, and has the potential to lower insurance premiums. And I would say, I don't know if we have any great data on what that offset is of when they install fire suppression, how much does it reduce their insurance premium. So in some ways, this might be a chance to ask for that information as we're doing this project as well. So you have the drafted one-page pilot program included in your packet. I'll just hit some of the highlights. So the thought was potentially around $200,000 rather than the current $5,000 would be up to $30,000. So that's an up to $30,000. So it'd have to be on a $60,000 project. That would be a 50% cost share. And not all projects might go that high, but it would have the potential to cover that amount if there is a $50,000 or $60,000 substantial investment required for fire suppression or ADA. I want to make sure I also say that. ADA, we're talking needs an additional restroom, stairs, addressing the interior, making sure all the space is accessible. So just kind of that consideration as well.
So that means basically 50% of the project up to
30,000.
$60,000.
So if you had
on the
a
project. Yeah, up to
$50,000
$50,000,
project,
right.
it'd be the 25,000.
Oh,
So it's a
okay.
50% cost share.
50% cost share, got it.
So this would be for new projects. It wouldn't be retroactive. So if 5 years ago you installed fire suppression in your building, this would not be the right fit for you. I would also say potentially that meant as a business owner, you determined that that investment was worthwhile and was gonna work out for you in the long run. So these would really be for those businesses that potentially have those projects ready, available, and want to pull the trigger and do that.
Sure.
It's just that initial upfront dollar amount that was a prohibitive factor. So again, this would be for new projects. It would directly support a business. So right now, as written, our small business economic development grant doesn't cover residential, so think you want to convert to a downtown loft. This, as written, wouldn't support that. It would be a focus specifically tied to businesses. So also wouldn't really be for just downtown space in general. It would sort of need to have some sort of demonstrated business tie, so potential to sign a lease, or there's a business there now, something along those lines, which is what I ask for right now when they're submitting the small business grants. And then what would be a little unique is, what we hear a lot of feedback on is architect fees and engineering fees. Whenever we as staff even say the words engineer, architect, we see business owners kind of take a step back because they're intimidated at the cost of what that's going to be. So it makes sense, is that being part of the project, to consider that as eligible for the grant, along with water connections. So I've learned a little bit about fire suppression in creating this, and I've learned pipe sizes for the water to get it there isn't the standard, or certainly wasn't the standard in previous decades. Also, depending on where the main water is in the street, the connection to that can cost some fees, so that would also be an eligible expense. And then the professional installation and supplies.
So again, Ms. Hall, just to make sure I understand the right way, and I feel like this has been one area that Main Street's talked about it too, that has prevented some of our existing business owners from expanding because of what would be required to do so.
That's the feedback that we've heard. I also have with us today as staff, Chief Building Inspector Hal Burdett, who is the primary person with the city who works with businesses. So he's heard this feedback probably even more. If you have any specific questions on requirements for businesses, he's the best person to kind of ask those questions. So he's here as a reference.
And do we have, I mean, starting this off, you know, talked about the folks that are ready to, hey, if this is available, maybe they'll hop on it. We've got a list of those folks right now that
I certainly
are
know
potentially interested.
several businesses who I've had those conversations with. So I'll give you an example, even one. I have one local business who's looking to expand. And is looking at a building downtown and a building not in the downtown. And he said, I'm intimidated looking at a building downtown due to the age and what requirements I'm gonna have if I purchase that building. So even though I want to be in the downtown, it's almost easier for me to consider the other building that maybe was a little more modern. So when you hear that, I think that's valuable feedback.
Sure.
You know, is there anything we'd like to do to take that into consideration? Is the way I'd put that.
Well, and that's why I love this idea, and thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Kramer, because I mean, if this is a roadblock we can alleviate for some folks, and do we know how much, I know this is a pilot, but do we know potentially how much more we could be able to tap into from ARPA funds? Can't remember what we've allocated so far.
100% a commission decision. You know, we could, if this is successful and we do 6 grants in, 6 months or less, and we come back to you and say, hey, we still have, there's some ARPA flexibility in what we have,
Sure.
so.
I think, 4 to 6 projects even, if it means good expansion and this is what's holding it up, it's always gonna be there. It's always gonna be a roadblock for them, so.
When would you start the pilot program?
I'd want to start November 1st.
Okay.
I think it would just be an adjustment of the current grant application, get the outreach out, get the information out, so I'd start as soon as possible. I would say the ARPA deadline for everything is the end of 2024, so just kind of keep that in mind. There's a deadline already set for the program, so just consideration.
I mean, I've seen enough already. I'm good to go with it.
I think that's great. Yeah, I'm for it.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great. Okay, let's go for it.
How are you gonna publicize it?
I mean, we'd work with Main Street and the Chamber as a starting point. I work with businesses often
I
on
know.
other items, so I have sort of a running email contact list that I would reach out to. I mean, we put it on the city's webpage,
Sure.
the city's Facebook page. I'd probably do this as its own webpage just for this program, and then that would be the single link to refer out to.
And if we can get, if we exceed the amount that's already been allocated for the pilot and keep that pipeline of more applicants, hopefully that's what'll happen, but, yeah.
And that could be an update to the commission, as periodically to see what the demand has been for that, what the interest has been, what the use is.
Cool.
And just to be able to help people that want to start a business and just haven't because of this,
So we
to
think-
say, hey, we want you here in Leavenworth.
So what do you think, February-ish to get maybe an update? Is that long enough?
I think a lot of that's gonna be dependent on demand. If we get a bunch early, we'll probably come back to you sooner than
It's
that.
November 1st.
I was gonna ask,
Starts.
could you, let's say tomorrow morning, clear your calendar, right? You've got nothing to do. Could you walk into your office and sit down and think of 5 people that you could call, 5 businesses that you could call and say, hey, we've got this new thing possibly coming up. Would you be interested? Would it make you more able to, open or
I
expand
think it
your
was,
business?
4.
Well, she already
off the
knows
top of my
them.
She
head.
already knows and.
Yeah.
Good,
so, yeah,
good.
she's
That's
probably-
what I want to know.
And
You could easily
Hal
call
might
for
have a longer list than I do. I mean, he's,
So, yeah,
years
that-
Talk to businesses all
That's
the
part of
time.
her job. Yeah.
Oh, I
So the
know.
answer is yes.
Thank you. I figured it was. You wouldn't be asking this for this otherwise.
Cool.
Okay, great. Thank
Great
you.
work.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer, did you have anything?
Yeah, just real quick reminder, Saturday, 5 PM at Sports Field is Haunted Havens. We sold out the vendors, I mean, it's free, so we didn't sell, but all 50 vendor spots are taken. The police department will be out there with their haunted house again, and a really cool event. Downtown paving was supposed to be Monday, it was a temperature thing, so it'll be Thursday and Friday. Temperatures, the surface temperature has to be 50 degrees and rising to put asphalt down.
Right.
So luckily, that's coming back up, so Thursday and Friday, we will pave Cherokee and Fifth, if you haven't had a chance, Vilas, the little section of Garland, Johnson Street, North Seventh, have all been overlaid, and they look really good, so we'll finish that up. And the library parking lot's coming along as well. And then finally, I'm sure a couple commissioners will mention it, Business Symposium was Monday. Staff, that was our job to do it, so thank those who did that, but really thank the businesses that came out. 30 businesses for
Great interaction.
not knowing what to expect in
Yeah.
first year. And I've gotten some additional feedback that was all positive, so, it's nice to have an event that you sort of create out of the blue that seems to be really successful in its inaugural year, so.
Awesome.
Thanks for everybody who came out to that.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hagela.
Nothing. God bless.
And happy birthday.
What is that about?
Should we sing to him?
No.
God bless, be safe, stay warm.
Yes. Yes. I'm right there with you. Stay warm.
I don't have anything, God bless.
Okay.
Add to what Mr. Kramer said, loved the business symposium that went on. And I think if there's anything that we could try to continue to get into every business owner's head is ask us, what if, and then how can we? We want to take a very creative approach, and everything you're putting on the table right now, and like the last example, clearing roadblocks, I think that's excellent. So I'm excited to see what we can continue to do. So thank you for your guys' efforts again, I appreciate that. And yes, God bless.
Okay. And then I'll piggyback on that. With the business symposium, I think what was great for businesses to come out and not even just see us, but of course be able to interact in person with city staff, manager, assistant manager, city clerk, and planner. Because usually it's probably just a call or an email, so I think it's nice to have that
FaceTime's great.
Yeah, yeah. So otherwise, no, that's all I have, so have a great evening.